Hello and welcome to this edition of Joy in Our Town. I'm Ferrell, Tata, your host, and today I'd like to welcome my guest, Todd Walker. Todd is the Executive Director for the Judeo-Christian Outreach Center in Virginia Beach. Todd, thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, thank you for having me, Ann.
I've actually been really excited about you coming in because I've been a fan not only of your organization but of you. And before we talk about the JCOC, I want people to hear your story because you're an Ohio boy that went to Indiana University, played not only college football but professional football, and then have an interesting testimony of how you ended up here in Virginia Beach.
Yeah. Well, born and raised in Springfield, Ohio, and my mother, who I love dearly, is a praying mother, and she always told me, Todd, everyone has gifts, spiritual gifts that they're required to use to benefit, not only benefit themselves, but benefit others. And so as an 8, 9, 10-year-old hearing that, I hung on to the word gift, and I wanted to know, what my gift was, and so our gifts were. And so as I grew and matured, I had a strong passion in the area of sports. And so I love football and basketball. Those became my primary sports that I played, and I was very good. I'm not ashamed to say that. I really developed a strong talent there. But as I grew and colleges came beating on my door, and Indiana University ended up being the school I selected, a wonderful school. Went on and played college football and played in 4 bowl games.
Wow.
As I'm going through all of that, football became my identity.
Yeah.
Sports became my identity. And so even though I grew up in the church, it became secondary. And my mother, when she told me, she said gifts plural, and it became gifts singular for me.
Yeah.
And so as I began to reach my dream, and I'm telling myself the whole time, this is what God intended for me to do is, entertain people on Sundays.
Right.
This is my gift, and this is how He wants me to utilize it. But I'm
good at it.
And I'm good at it. But I'm telling that story, and I'm not asking Him, and I wasn't seeking His guidance at that time. And so, as I did get into the NFL, I signed a free agent contract with the Denver Broncos. I'm thinking everything is working out correctly.
Yeah.
Here I am catching passes from John Elway just
Oh
5 years ago.
This is when he was playing?
Yes.
So he was the quarterback.
He was the quarterback
wow.
then. And
what was your position?
I was tight end.
Oh,
so I was in position
gosh.
to be in the huddle with him and
Yeah.
catch passes. And I never forget, the first time I saw him, I said, man, 5 years ago, I'm sitting on my couch watching him play against the Washington Redskins and Doug Williams. Now here I am.
That had to be surreal.
It was. It was
wow.
an unbelievable experience.
Yeah.
And as I went through that, I'm thinking everything's going as planned, and then an injury occurred.
Oh.
And the
didn't
team
see that coming.
Didn't see it at all, and never imagined it, didn't plan for it. And the team released me. They gave me what they call an injury settlement.
Yeah.
I was back home, and I discovered there were more people back home disappointed I didn't make it than I was.
How did that make you feel?
I was very depressed.
Yeah.
Very depressed. It was a challenging time for me. And as I played sports, I developed what I call the Superman syndrome, where I could always impact the game by scoring a bucket when needed or making a tackle or a quarterback sack. And so I began to develop that in my life, that when I came in contact with different problems and challenges in my life, I would be the
Superman.
one to try to fix it.
Yeah.
And instead of relying on God.
Did that work for a while for you?
Well, I thought it did.
Yeah.
And I looking back on it, I realized it didn't.
Yeah.
It was a vicious cycle that was occurring that I didn't recognize. And so I tried it one more time. And so I called an agent that I didn't sign with coming out of college, and I told him I wanted another shot. And he told me, in order for me to take you on as a client, I need you to quit your job and commit 150% of your time to football. And then I may take you on as a client.
That's a risk.
It's a high risk. I had a 5-year-old daughter at the time. And so I almost kind of liken it to Genesis 32, where it talks about Jacob wrestling with God.
Yeah.
And I feel at that moment I was really wrestling with God. And I went home and I prayed. And so, the Holy Spirit really drove me to pray, and God said, Todd, everybody that's helped you get to where you are, all the hands that have helped guide you and cover you and help you to achieve all the success you've achieved up to this point, I need you to go back and do that for somebody else.
Wow.
And so at that moment, I knew I was meant to be a professional, but just not a football player
Yeah.
in the human services field. And so over the last 24 years, I've dedicated my life.
So you told
in
that
area.
agent no.
I told an agent, I
You
couldn't
just said
do it.
no. Wow.
Yeah, that I had to really focus at that moment on my family and then also
Yeah.
on my career.
Now, were you living in Indiana at the time?
Yes, I was in Indianapolis at the time.
So how did you end up here?
Well, I lived there for about 15 years, and my wife came home one day and said, "Todd, I can't take another winter in Indiana." And so we made the decision to look around. I allowed her to look around to see if there were any job opportunities. And she had a sister that lived here in this area, and she ended up getting a nice job offer. And we prayed together, and
Yeah.
and the Lord said, "Do it." And
Yeah.
so the struggle for me, though, personally, even though we prayed on it, was, I still struggle with everything that I felt I had to give up
Right.
in order to come here. And so as I continued to pray by myself, the Lord said, "Todd, you got to take your hands off of it." And I would always answer, "Well, I've worked here for 12 years and,
Yeah.
I've built this and I've done this, and I've done that." And the Lord said, everything that you have,
Yeah.
I've given you.
Wow.
And you don't think I can give you that and more in
Yeah.
Virginia?
That sounds like something he would say, just lovingly, like, trust me.
Just try, and that's
Yeah.
what it boiled down to, is the
Right.
trust factor. And just a little sidebar: I moved my wife and my son first. When I got her here, she had told me to bring a suit when we were driving down, and I kind of begrudgingly threw the seat in the back of the car and said, "Nobody's gonna call," because she said, "You've been sending out resumes, you just may get a call."
Yeah.
Well, come to find out, when I did get here, I did get a phone call from Tidewater Youth Services Commission.
Oh, my
And they
goodness.
asked me, said, "Are you here?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm leaving
And I
in
have
the
my
morning."
suit.
And the funny part about it is the deputy director that called me, he said, "Nay, don't worry if you don't have a suit. We know we're calling you last minute
Oh, wow.
to come and interview." I wore the suit anyway.
Yeah.
But long story short, I ended up getting a job within 3 weeks. So
Wow.
it just kind of shows how the Lord works.
Yeah.
He worked extremely fast. I moved my wife here, and 3 weeks later, I had a job. And so-
Wow. Well, that what's important about that is to how God, you really started to seek Him, and for every step of your career, and He led you to JCOC, and it just shows like that relationship, that back and forth relationship with the Lord. He brought you to JCOC, and I'm sure everything that you've done and experience in your life this far has prepared you for this job.
It has. The whole journey: substance abuse, mental health.
Yeah.
I worked with homelessness back in 1995. I've dealt personally with addiction,
Yeah.
substance abuse addiction.
Oh,
So
wow.
the Lord brought me through that.
Wow.
And so there were a lot of things and challenges that I faced along the way to prepare me for everything that I deal with now at JCOC. I'm extremely prepared, and
Right.
feel blessed that He's using me as a vehicle to help others.
I mean, you're an example of all things work together for good.
And most definitely.
Right? So you are the executive director of the JCOC, and it's the Judeo-Christian Outreach Center. So does that mean it's involved with churches and synagogues?
Churches and synagogues and all faith-based organizations.
Oh, okay. And what services? What is your organization all about?
Well, we were initially established in 1986, so we just recently celebrated our 30th year anniversary.
Congratulations.
And
That's
you.
huge.
Thank you. And we were started to provide basically provide food to anybody struggling with a hunger crisis.
Oh, yeah.
And what they soon found out was the people they were feeding were homeless.
Oh, wow.
And so we developed many housing programs off of that feeding program, and just over the years have been able to grow and really address our mission to help people who are dealing with hunger or homelessness.
And are you only in Virginia Beach?
We are.
So you service people in Virginia Beach?
Yes. Yeah.
And how many meals a day do y'all serve?
We serve generally anywhere between 150 to 250 meals a day. Last year,
Do you do breakfast, lunch, dinner?
breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then we also do a food pantry, and we provide food boxes to families with children who are in need. So
Oh, wow.
last year, I think we provided 87,000 meals.
And you do special things on the holidays, right, for Thanksgiving and Christmas?
Thanksgiving and Christmas. Well, first of all, we serve a meal every day of the year. So
Oh my
that's a
gosh.
blessing right there.
Wow.
But we always have special dinners on the holidays, because generally people that we serve,
Yeah.
the homeless, many of them don't have family here, or
right.
they've burned their bridges with their family because of the issues and things that they've been able to, that they're fighting through right now.
Yeah.
And so it's just good to be able to give somebody a hug or a smile, or
Right.
provide them with a small token or gift to help uplift them during this time of the year, because this is really a time where you see a lot of people that we serve really become depressed.
Right. Before you got into this job, what was your perception of homelessness, and did it change after you
Yeah, I
got
think
into it?
you kind of look at it on the side. I had dealt with it years ago, but it
Yeah.
really kind of changed over the years. And just a quick story: when I interviewed for the job with JCOC, I wasn't going to take the job
Because?
because I kind of looked at everything on the surface. So I'm looking at the
Yeah.
buildings breaking down. I'm
Oh.
looking at some of the clientele in there, and and I told myself before I even gave it an opportunity that this is not the job for me. But I had
Yeah.
been praying to God to lead me into a good situation. I had just finished my master's degree at the time, and so I was really looking for that cushy job, I guess,
Yeah.
in my mind, that I thought was out there waiting
Well, you
on me.
deserved, because you had a master's
That's
and you're
right.
Superman.
Hey, that's right. And when I got there, I just kind of looked at everything and said, this is not it. And so
Yeah.
I went home and I prayed on it, and the Lord said, Todd, everything that you've asked me for is right there at JCOC. You just don't like what the package is wrapped in.
Wow.
And that, to me,
That's humbling.
very humbling, but it also speaks volumes to how we see homeless people.
Yeah.
We looked at the package that they're wrapped in versus
Right.
what's inside them. And so
Yeah.
that was my challenge. I knew at that point was I had to, just like my mother told me I had gifts,
Right.
I had to encourage our clients that they also have gifts within themselves to be able to utilize, and that this was not their destiny. That
Wow.
God didn't set it up for them to be there permanently in their
Yeah.
situation, but this would be a temporary stop that could catapult them into where they're supposed to be. And so
That's
I always
beautiful,
say,
Todd.
I always say there's a reason your windshield is bigger than your rearview mirror.
Yeah.
Your windshield represents.
I've never heard that.
Yeah,
Is that original?
That's not from me.
I got
I've
a
heard
quote.
it from someone
Okay.
else,
I was
but-
like, I got to quote that.
Yeah.
That needs to be on a meme or something.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
your windshield represents what's out in front of you.
Right.
Your future, the path that God has laid, and then your rear view represents things in the past that you've been able to overcome and what God has pulled you through. And
Right.
I always encourage our clients. I said, listen, your failures really are your successes, because you're here.
That's right.
And your failure
You're
didn't
still
take you
here.
out. You're still here, so you have an opportunity to make a wrong a right. And so
Right.
that's what we encourage them.
Oh my gosh, Todd, this is so inspiring and encouraging. And but we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we're going to continue talking about some specific services that you guys offer and how you help to make sure that they get the things that they need.
Okay.
So I'm Ferrell Tata. We are going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Todd, from the Executive Director at JCOC. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to this edition of Joy in Our Town. I'm Ferrell Tata, your host, and we are continuing our conversation with Todd Walker. Todd is the Executive Director of the Judeo-Christian Outreach Center. So thanks again for staying with us over the break. So I want to talk a little bit about, we were talking about the perception you had about homeless, and then after you got the job and wrapped up in a package, what as far as homelessness goes, and has it changed over the years, but kind of what percentage are substance abuse or mental illness, or what are the different causes of homelessness?
I would say in the homeless arena, what we term as the hardest to serve is generally, an individual with high acuity, so with the highest level of needs.
Right.
And that's who we aim to serve at JCOC. So I would say right now, probably over 50% of the individuals we serve probably have a co-occurring disorder. They have mental health issues and a substance abuse issue. The numbers kind of spike. It varies. But for the most part, everybody you're dealing with generally has some type of mental health or disability.
Right.
That you have to kind of help them work through to kind of get them back into permanent housing and do some of the things you need to do to kind of help them move forward. So
Now, are those some of the services that they offer at JCOC to help address the substance abuse or mental illness?
we do have services there to help them address, or we can connect them with organizations that could provide those services, like mental health, for example. We don't provide services in-house, but we do partner with other organizations that can come in and provide that service, including like human services or some of the smaller mental health services that are out there. Our job mainly is housing and employment focused.
You try to help them get jobs too.
Yes.
Do they have job fairs, and do you help them with resume building and things like that?
We have what we call an employment life skills case manager, and his job is to help with the resume building. And then we utilize the community.
Yeah.
I always say homelessness is a community issue that requires a community solution. And so we have banks.
Another good one.
Yep, that is, yeah. So they're a JCOC original. But we do have outside organizations that come in and provide services like Zenith Bank and Woodforest Bank. They come in and do budgeting.
Oh, that's great.
And financial literacy classes. We have other organizations that come in and do a variety of trainings. I usually do a class every quarter called Focus.
Yeah.
And just to talk about what our expectations are, and just more of a motivating class to kind of help them kind of being transparent myself, so they can kind of see that, I wasn't born an executive director. I had to be developed, and God had to kind of mold me into where I am now.
Yeah.
And just kind of, explain to them things that I've had to overcome, including my addiction issues that I've had years ago and things of that nature. So it's really beneficial to our clients. And then on the housing side of it, we really want homelessness to be rare, brief, and non-recurring for our clients.
Yeah.
So we really make a push to find out what's the best housing option for them. We use an evidence-based assessment, and then also work towards getting them into those housing goals and housing solutions. So,
what's the average stay for the people in the housing?
The average length of stay right now is about 66 days, which I'm extremely excited about.
Because that's come down?
That's come down. When I started, it was 181 days.
Oh my goodness,
yeah,
that's
so
fantastic.
We've been able to get it all the way to 66
Now,
days.
what are the factors that have contributed to reducing that, besides you?
Well, I think,
Superman.
Thank you. I think what we did was we kind of flip-flopped we were service-oriented, and we flip-flopped it to become more housing-oriented. So, for example, when people would come in, we try to connect them to all these services and force them to go to services, even if they feel they didn't need the services, to go through those services, and then we felt you were ready for housing. Well, now we've turned that around to say, okay, let's get them into housing first. It kind of ties into Maslow's hierarchy of need. You address the biggest need first.
Get their physical needs taken care of.
Which is the housing. And then you can kind of connect them or wrap the services around them once they're in housing. And so one of the new initiatives that we do that through is called rapid rehousing. It's really the best evidence-based practice to help a homeless person get back into housing. And it involves 3 components. So we actually go out and we actively recruit landlords and property managers. So that
all
goes
throughout
back,
the city?
All throughout Hampton Roads.
Oh, wow.
And so that kind of goes back to that community solution part. And
we're all in this together.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then we also get funding, grant funding, state and federal level, that provide us an ability to provide rental subsidies to help people get into housing much quicker.
Right.
And then the third piece, which I feel is the most important, is we can provide case management services once we get them into housing. And so we wrote a startup grant with Hampton Roads Community Foundation.
Oh, yeah.
And they gave us a 3-year grant, seed money, to start up the program. We did it. We were highly successful. And then in the interim, we were able to apply with 2 more grants, one with the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and then also a state grant.
Yeah.
So we have 3 now.
That's fantastic.
And we've been doing rapid rehousing since we started in April of 2014. And since that time, we've housed 120 individuals, with only about 15 going back into homelessness.
Wow, that's fantastic.
So not only house them, but permanently house them long term. And really, that's what our goal is not just to get them in housing, but to keep them in housing.
So you start with getting them housing. That's the first thing you do. And then these case managers, do they work with each one individually? Because they probably have different needs and different skill sets.
Yeah, everything is tailored to the individual. And that kind of goes back to when you had asked, what was the change as far as cutting down the length of stay.
Right.
We didn't make we got
Cookie
rid of
cutter.
anything cookie cutter.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's fantastic.
And made it all individualized, tailored to that person. And when we saw when we did it that way, it just worked much better.
Oh yeah, because you're also giving them dignity, and you're making them like they are the focal point.
Right.
Speaking of that, faith-based, like how you guys are obviously faith-based, do you have Bible study, or do you encourage, them to accept Jesus Christ or go to a synagogue? How does that work?
We do. Well, one of the ways we do is we have churches that actually come in and provide the dinner every day of the year.
Oh, yeah.
And so that gives them an opportunity at that moment to do a variety of things. Sometimes we can have Bible study after dinner.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes the churches connect with people, and they just start coming to pick people up on Sundays to take them to church.
Oh, that's
What a great way to
fantastic.
get acclimated back in the community.
Yeah.
Is through church. And so those are some of the ways we encourage any and everything, any
Right.
services. We can't make it mandatory because of the grant funding that we receive.
Yeah.
But we do have it optional. So
Right.
we have Bible studies on campus. We have different groups. I remember a couple of years ago where Galilee had a class, and we had maybe 6 or 7 individuals sign up, and they came and picked them up every day, take them to class.
Wow, that's
And with a
awesome.
graduation, it culminated in a graduation in Richmond.
Oh, wow.
They actually got to leave the city to do that. So
Yeah.
all those type of things we try to do to connect them and really expose them
Right.
to things that may knock down barriers to help them get back into housing and change their life around. Because
Oh,
I think
sure.
the more we're able to share our testimony,
Yeah.
and they can kind of see the realness in it,
Yeah.
that we all have experienced things and learn
No
how
one's perfect.
No one's perfect, and
Yeah.
we've been able to overcome things. I think it just makes it more. It just makes it more real. I mean,
Right.
they see the success in us.
Sure.
And they can
Gives
try to
them
use
hope.
that. And gives them hope.
Yeah.
We've had 4 or 5 of our staff members who have been homeless.
Oh my gosh.
And so
wow.
what a testimony that they
is.
have.
Yeah. How about with the substance abuse? Do they have recovery programs on site, or is that something you also refer out?
Both.
Oh,
We have recovery programs on site. We allow outside entities actually to come in and provide classes
Yeah.
at our facility. So we do that, and then also we have the ability to refer out as well. So it's real beneficial.
Yeah.
Because it gives them an opportunity to connect with people out of the community who are going through those struggles,
Right.
or find a sponsor, or those type of things.
So I'm sure the needs in an organization like yours is so great. I'm sure obviously financial needs, but also volunteers. I mean, are you always looking for volunteers?
Yeah,
or-
it's really what makes us work. It's the backbone of JCOC. We have volunteers who come in every day like it's a job.
Yeah.
The churches that come in, they not only provide the meal, serve the meal, but they also provide the meal and
Yeah.
cook the meal.
Wow.
And so that requires volunteers. So we do a sign-up dinner every year.
Yeah.
We just had one the first weekend in November. And so now I can look at the calendar and tell you who's serving dinner New Year's Eve 2017.
That's
So
amazing.
That's a blessing. So we're always looking for volunteers, and we have a lot of churches who are committed
Right.
to come and do, a variety of things on campus cleanup,
Yeah.
fixing things, just whatever's needed.
Right.
We've really had a strong presence by our community to come in and make sure those needs are filled.
So what about things like clothing or furniture for the housing? Are you looking for those kind of things as well?
We do look for those things as well. It's real beneficial. One of the
Yeah.
things I share with people is when you help someone who's homeless get into housing, it's great. It's
Yeah.
a celebration time. But also, they generally don't have anything to go in the house.
Right.
And so we really rely on the community to provide furniture,
Yeah.
move-in kits. So you have towels and sheets. We partner with Lisa Sleep. They provide beds, which
Oh,
is
that's
awesome.
awesome.
So
Yeah.
not only is that person going into their own place, but they have a bed to sleep on at night
Right.
versus sleeping on the floor. So
I mean, that, like you said, that involves everybody, so everybody has a part.
Yes.
It's funny, we were talking earlier on another show about gifts. We all have different gifts, and some people may have the gift of compassion, that they want to actually work with the residents doing one-on-one thing, but it sounds like no matter what your gifts are, if you're organizational, you can help, I guess, organize the pantry, but you probably have something for everyone to utilize their gifts.
we do, and one of the things I like to do it versus telling them what I want them to do.
Yeah.
is just to come and take a tour and kind of look around and kind of see what we do and learn about some of the things we do. And,
Right.
you know, generally God will place something on your heart where you feel you can fill in to be a presence and to help someone else.
Right. So even though they have these scheduled dinners, if somebody's listening and they just want to walk in and volunteer, can they just walk in and say, I want to do something, put me to work?
Well, we initially used to do that, but
Oh,
we
yeah.
did, because we have such a high volume of volunteers, what we do now is a volunteer orientation.
Oh,
just to
that's
give our
smart.
volunteers an opportunity not only to learn about all the things we do,
Yeah.
but have an opportunity to learn about the people that we serve. And that's
Oh,
important
yeah.
too, just to kind of have an idea of who you're serving, so
Right.
you don't come in and you're not
With those
taken aback.
perceptions and those
Yes.
preconceived ideas. And we're actually about out of time, but you serve pretty much adults, but if somebody has children or if there are needs for children, you have a hotline that you can encourage people to
Yeah,
reach
all
out.
of the people in Virginia, really in Hampton Roads, can access our regional crisis hotline,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
227-5932. And by calling that number, with whatever need you have, whether you're
can
an
help
adult
figure it out.
or a family,
Yeah.
they'll assess your need on the phone and get you into the right place.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Well, Todd, thank you so much for being with us today. And they're going to put up your website so people can go to your website. And I'm sure you have a lot of this information on there as well if
Yes.
they want to reach you and help out. I'm Ferrell, Tata. You've been watching Joy in Our Town with Todd Walker from the Judeo-Christian Outreach Center. And we will appreciate you watching today, and we will see you next time on Joy in Our Town. Thank you so much.